Welcome and namaste. My name's Cole. Thanks so much for joining me. And today going to show you a little hip sequence, a few hip poses that have really supported me when I'm having some grumpy hips. So I hope that it helps you as well. So I'm gonna offer some modifications. So it doesn't need to look like mine, and it likely won't, but there are a spectrum for each of these poses, so we'll explore them today. And first we're going to explore pigeon pose. So I'll show you some different variations. And then you can choose which one you want to do, maybe even hit pause and stay in a bit longer. So pigeon pose, contrary to popular belief, your shin does not need to be parallel to the top of the mat, because that makes it pretty inaccessible to a lot of us, including me. So it doesn't need to be at the top of the mat. What we do want to think about is squaring the hips. So if my hips are square and my leg is like this, and that's totally fine, I'm getting the opening here. So you do want to pull back on the left hip crease and pull forward on the right hip crease. Or if you've maybe heard me say scissor the thighs before, it's the same sort of thing. We're wanting to keep the hips square. Some options here, you can put a block, you see, right underneath the hip. This is really helpful. I'll grab this bolster. And you can stay up. I get a lot of stretch from staying up because then my weight is doing the gravity. So it's pressing down on my hips here. So often I like to stay up, at least for a little bit. Another option is that you can pour forward. So then maybe use a bolster and you can come forward as well. So this has some different sensation, lots of different things going on. So this is hip square version. Another option is sleeping swan, also called deer pose. So I don't know if you saw what I did. I went from my hips square to opening my hips, and I just sat my hip down. So this may be more accessible and sometimes just feels better. It's a different stretch. So again, I can stay here. The legs are still kind of extended to what feels sustainable. Again, when we're looking for these stretches, we're not going for the very edge because we can't settle our nervous system if we're at the very edge. We want to fully be able to inhale and exhale. Anyway, so you can stay here. Sometimes I'll like to wave the spine up, or again, you can take the bolster and fold forward. This feels really nice today. And it's not just in the hip, I can feel it in the hamstring as well, a little bit more in this pose. So option here. The last option that I'll give is the reclined pigeon. So you can come right down onto the back, take the left leg up, bring it over the right knee and pull in. So this is working on the same stretch, but we don't have the weight of the body coming down. So choose where you want to be, and we'll stay for about a minute, which is about 6 slow breaths if you're doing a 5-count inhale and a 5-count exhale. So choose what feels good in your body now, in this moment, because it'll change. And I'm going to come into the sleeping swan. And from here, the work is to be still, to steady the breath, and to observe. Is there anywhere that you can let go of? Like, are you holding onto your jaw? Or can you let the shoulders relax a bit? One more inhale. And fully release. And slowly pushing yourself up, or if you're on your back, coming up. I'll show another variation. This is not a variation, but this is double pigeon, which is really nice. So we'll have this bottom leg that's already bent, and we're gonna bring the top leg and we're gonna stack it on top. Now in this pose, we will have the shin be at the top of the mat, yeah? The other leg, I'm gonna bring the ankle over the knee and then the other knee over the ankle. So it might look like this. This is where I'm starting that today. That's totally fine. Some options here now where we can utilize blocks is, well, first and foremost, you can just straighten the bottom leg. This is an option. You can sit up on a block or a pillow. This will give much more space here. So you see how I've kind of brought this gap down a bit. Remember that having the gap is not losing the gap is not the goal. It's getting a stretch. The other option is to put a block here. And if we are putting a block here, we don't want to put a block so much to where we can't feel the stretch. It's like we kind of want to put it at the edge to where we can, like, we're barely using the block because we want to let our body sink into it. So choosing where you want to be. And in this pose, double pigeon, it shifts quite quickly. What's happening? This has already changed quite a bit. A little tip is to grab your booty and pull it out. And what this does is it helps to sit the pelvis forward a little bit, tilt the pelvis so you have more space in the low back and everything's kind of shifting forward. Many people like to pour forward in here, and you can. Often it's a bit too much for me. Definitely feeling the stretch here, but I don't know if it's sustainable. And kind of notice myself tensing, so I'm gonna back up. So do that in your own body. So it requires some curiosity and observation to figure out where you want to be. Also welcome to take a twist, but about a minute here. Imagine your hips as ice, and with each exhale, they turn a little bit more into water, like they're melting. And slowly releasing. And we're gonna lean back, plant your hands, and you can unwind the legs. And we'll just windshield wiper here. Then we'll switch sides. So let's start with pigeon pose. And there's a tendency to automatically do the same thing as you did on the other side, but we're very different on each side. So go into this as it's a whole new thing. Trying the different variations. So maybe you want to come down to your back, or maybe you'd like to stay in a square hip pigeon. Or maybe sleeping swan, coming to the hip. And then your choice if you sit up or you fold forward. Wherever you go, about a minute, minute and a half here. Do relax the head. See if you can find somewhere to rest the head, either in the hands, or I'm just resting my head on a block here. One more in-breath. And fully release. And beginning to shift on your next inhale. And we're coming into double pigeon on this side. So, again, options. The bottom leg can extend, if you'd like. You can sit up on a block. Or the ankle is over the knee over the ankle. I didn't say this on the other side, but I really like to flex both feet. And I've heard this before, which has been helpful, is like often this happens. We'll kind of sickle it in, you know, and then the foot will sickle. But we want to bring it to the edge, almost like if you were gonna slide on a flip-flop. Like enough kind of over that you will be able to slide a flip-flop on there was a good gauge, helpful for me. So I can see a lot of difference on each side for me. Likely you can too, in your own body. So again, doing what you need to do to figure out where you want to be, and then commit to staying. Be here just a few rounds of breath, and observe. And press down through the sit bones and reach through the crown of the head, making lots of space in the torso. See how that shifts in the hips. Subtle, but there. Melting ice to water. Slow drip opening. Two more breaths. And slowly release, lean back, plant the hands, soles of the feet come down, and windshield wiper the legs here. Maybe little, maybe big. And I'll show you one last pose here. This is Bakasana, not Bakasana like crow, but Bakasana like frog. I'll show you what I like to do. So I like to, especially if you have a tile floor or a wood floor, then grab a blanket and put it next to your mat. So what we'll do, and I'm gonna have this handy, is I'm gonna put one knee on the blanket and one knee on the mat, because then I can slide a little bit easier. So I'm gonna slide my hips apart. And if you can see here, my hip is gonna be in line with my knee, yeah? And then my knee is in line with my ankle. That's kind of the alignment here. I'm gonna come down, I'm gonna do it really mindfully. And you're welcome to, the feet tend to come in sometimes, and it's not an issue, but see what it's like if they come out, toes pointing out. Option, you can bring a pillow or a bolster underneath you. Depending on how you want to do this pose, if you want it to be more restorative with a little bit of opening, then bolster yourself high. If you want to get a really big, so this is like getting into the groin area, if you're wanting to open that space more and find your edge more there, then I would bolster less or not at all. So let your intention help inform the way that you get into the pose. Some people love this pose. Like they love it. They fall asleep in it in class. This is a really challenging for me. And if it is challenging for you as well, are you in a space where you can be with challenge, but also breathe? If not, then back up a little bit. Like bring it out a little bit and see what it's like there. You'll actually get more of a benefit if you're less deep in the pose, but you can use more breath. Couple more rounds of breath. To get out of this, you can slide forward is one way to do it. You can press down into the hands and like slide your leg back, or you can bring the feet together and kind of sit the hips back as you come in. So there's a couple different ways. So that is, those are some of my faves whenever I'm, like I said, having grumpy hips. So we did Pigeon Pose / Sleeping Swan, so different options. Double Pigeon and Frog Pose, Bakasana. So I hope that one of those or some of those were supportive of you. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments. And yeah, thanks for joining me. Again, my name's Cole. If you want to learn more about what I'm up to and the offerings that I have, then head to colechanceyoga.com, and I'll see you here every Tuesday at YOGATX. Thanks.